All right, this is Jax. This is what my parents didn't know. And what we're talking about today is about our kids. So if you don't have kids, I understand that you may not be interested in this. However, there is something I like to refer to as the male role model. So this goes for dudes, it goes for chicks, honestly. But it's really, we're talking about how to guide our kids while being conscious of power and control dynamics. Um, when, well, I'll just start with this story. So when I was, I don't know, about 2 years ago, something like that, Me Too movement was going on, and basically what we were talking about in therapy was my interactions with my kids. So when I was having interactions with my kids, I was listening to them. I listened to some podcasts that were basically survivors of abuse dynamics. And they were talking about how they open lines of communication with their kids. What they did was they made it a point to spend 5 minutes every day with each of their kids. In that 5 minutes, they would talk about whatever the kid wanted to. Sometimes the kid didn't want to talk about anything, so they just kept it very simple and didn't talk about anything. So after these 5 minutes a day with each kid, after this had happened for however long, the kids started to open up to the survivor. And when they started opening up, they talked about the effect of the abuse that it had on them, from what they saw with their parent, what they saw with the other parent. And ultimately, it created a dialogue where this 5 minutes a day went a very long way for them. So, so getting to know your kids is obviously, you would think it's very simple, but the fact of the matter is as the kids get older, they have more secrets. You don't need to know all of their secrets. I highly recommend that you develop a trust relationship with your children where they can dictate the content of a conversation. Let them take the wheel, let them control it. If they have an issue, let them guide you in how they want to proceed with it. So this gets me into what I've called the Me Too movement for dads and men, really. And it's specifically for men. And if you're the woman, if you as a woman are the man in the life of a child, then more power to you. Please hear what we have to say here. However, in this particular case, I called it Me Too for dads because this is a toxicity that we subtly invite into our relationships with our children. We don't necessarily realize we're doing anything wrong. We think that we're being super supportive, and it is a trait that creates ways of thinking and patterns of thinking in the children that you may not be aware you're doing. So, so I'm in therapy, and I'm talking about my kids having issues in school, and I made a decision that if the kids had an issue, I would let them know that I am there for them and that I would do anything that they required of me. And this is good and it's bad because anything includes physical violence. Now, I am not a physically violent person. I haven't been physically violent since 2003. But I am capable of being physically violent, and it is a very last resort. But I will visit it if I absolutely have to. Now, my kids have an issue in school, a bully. I'll talk about bullying quite a bit because that is part of power and control dynamics. It is what you're doing. You are controlling. You are bullying. You are making your free will dominate another person's free will. So now my kid comes to me and says, I have this bully in my life. And it got physical. And when it got physical, they got physical. And they went to mediation. They executed a response of cooperative masculinity, and these are girls. But that's what they did. They still were emasculated by being physically attacked by another kid. And we're talking like young. We're talking like kindergarten, first grade, stuff like that. So I told my kids, well, you tell me how you want to deal with it, and that's what we'll do. But I fucked it up because I added a little bit of my, spicy seasoning, if you will. And I told them, here's what we'll do. Okay, we're going to do whatever you want, but here's some options. Option number one, we go to the school and we talk to the guidance counselor. If the guidance counselor doesn't do what we need them to do and nothing changes, we'll talk to the principal. If that doesn't happen and the behavior continues, we'll insist that the principal talks to the parents again. If that doesn't work, I will find the father and I will beat the fucking shit out of that father. Seemed reasonable to me. I had no problem throwing down with anybody. But it's toxic masculinity. Because it's imposing my will aggressively on somebody's father in a way to take control of that kid. Now that kid's bullying. He's doing something wrong. He's hurting my little girl. That is true. That needs to stop. However, what my kid hears is not, we're going to go to the principal and the guidance counselor and then the parents. What my kid is hearing is daddy's going to wreck some shit. Now, I stopped saying this for, I don't know, maybe a few months, but I meant it too. I really did. And I'm in therapy, and the subject of parenting comes up. And my therapist sees me trying to make positive, like really positive changes in my life. And so he challenged me. And he said, look, the Me Too movement's going on. The Kavanaugh shit was going on. I still don't really know anything about the Kavanaugh shit because I don't care about the news. The victims of Kavanaugh, if there was, obviously I'm going to care about them. That's why I'm doing videos like this. However, like the controversies and the partisan arguments and all that crap, I don't care. I don't care. I used to care too much, and I don't care anymore. But my therapist says to me, there's something in the, therapy world, psychology world that was being learned about the relationships of the victims of the Me Too movement. The Me Too movement was you'd have a woman and that woman would be sexually assaulted or sexually harassed. That woman was, terrorized, given traumatic experiences by their perpetrator. The sexual abuse, the sexual control over them was isolating them. And they wanted desperately to talk to their fathers about this. However, they did not. They chose not to do this. And the reason they chose not to do this is because of what my ass was saying years ago. They believed that their father would be so angry and so upset that they would find their attacker and beat the fucking shit out of him. not an unreasonable concern. Here's the problem with that. The problem with that is if you beat the fucking shit out of that guy, you're going to catch a case more than likely. And these victims knew that. So the person that was their source of strength, their source of support, more than anybody else when it came to their physical bodies, was their dads. And their dads could not be told what was happening because the victims were afraid that their fathers would catch a case and also be a victim of these people who were raping them and molesting them and sexually assaulting them and harassing them. And when the fathers found out about it, they were devastated because they weren't there for their daughter when their daughter needed it the most. So I went to each of my kids and I reminded them that I am dedicated to a life of nonviolence, of pacifism. And I reminded them that their father's a pretty smart guy. I have not met a challenge where I could not think through how to deal with it. When my kids have brought me issues, I ask them questions about it, and if they ask me my advice, I give it to them with the understanding that we're not doing daddy's advice unless that is what they want to do. I went to all my children and I apologized. I apologized for them, to them for presenting any version of their father that was unapproachable. I did not want my kids growing up afraid to tell me anything. Now, there's a principle, and we'll get into it a little bit in another episode, but the principle is there's a space between stimulus and response. I want to say it's a Sigmund Freud quote. I don't recall, to be honest with you. But stimulus, something that affects you emotionally, happens. And, you know, I'm talking to a lot of New Englanders, and there is a natural response that comes when somebody provokes you emotionally. The space between your response and that impact that it has on you emotionally, that space starts off this freaking big. I don't know how many stupid arguments started with, a debate that turned into you're a bitch, no, you're a bitch, no, you're a bitch, motherfucker, and then you start pushing. The moment that debate turns into you're a bitch, you're a bitch, you're a bitch, there is so much stimulus happening and so much responding that the space is non-existent. So the key is to utilize mindfulness. Something provokes you and you identify the emotion and you choose your response. Now, what happens with that is the more you practice, the further the space is between stimulus and response. So when my children are talking to me about an issue in their life, I ask them, what do you want to do with this? Do you want to just share with me what is on your mind and how you feel? Or are you looking for something more? So we're going to stop the conversation at, okay, you have shared with me the issue that you're facing. So now you're going to tell me Do you want to keep talking about it? Do you want options? How do you want to proceed? And anything that you want to do, we will do. Now, your responsibility as a parent is to honor your word on that. And yeah, there's going to be times where they're going to tell you some shit and you're going to be like, man, I want to handle this. I want to get involved. Please acknowledge and recognize that those times that you need to and have to respond on behalf of your child is rare. Let them steer the ship. So I go to my kids and I tell them, first of all, I apologize for telling you about daddy's past violence and what daddy's capable of doing, as I did in this video that I'm not talking to my children in. I apologize for presenting to you the option that I would hurt someone on your behalf. There is nothing that I would not do for you, but I will always pursue a non-violent solution to any issue that you bring to me. So please know that you can come to me about anything and daddy is not going to overreact. 1. Then you decide what we're going to do, including how much you want to tell me. And I am going to ask you questions, and you have the right not to answer those questions. Number 3, we're going to follow through with whatever you want to do. So, 1, I addressed approachability. I'm approachable. Come to me with any issue. My kids come to me with issues sometimes that I kind of wish they didn't. However, them's the breaks. That's part of parenting. 2, I let them know that the conversation has no limits and any questions I am asking is strictly to understand them and what they want to do. So anything that they have to say, not only is it confidential and is it dictated by them, what we do about it is up to them too, which is number 3. How do we proceed? Now, kids are also not as wise as we are. So we have a natural inclination to validate our wisdom, to have someone to share how fucking smart we can be. There's a part of us that wants to talk to our kids and explain to them, these are the options, this is what we can do, like follow my lead, man, and you'll be free. Sorry, that's a KRS-One song. But I want you to follow my lead. There's a natural inclination to do that. Stimulus, response, space it out, and you will create for them an empowerment. They have the power to dictate to their parent how they want to deal with their situation. You have to acknowledge that this is their problem, and you are one of the tools that they can utilize to find a solution that they're comfortable with. Now, there is also this belief system that we're raised with, that the man is the protector of the household. Well, you're being raised as a boy to be strong enough to be a man. So you will teach your kid that it is their responsibility to be a protector. This creates a natural desire from these children to be aggressive, to test their mettle. How tough am I? They're trying to figure out if they can live up to the protector status that the male role model in their life is imparting to them. This is a premise, a foundation for toxic masculinity. This empowers emasculation. And I'm talking a lot about masculinity in the first couple of episodes, not because this is, this is like what we're talking about. We're not going to attack masculinity like all day long, all that shit. This is about being a father. This is about being a parent. And this is about being someone who is guiding the minds of children. They are not going to become who they want to be if you're dictating to them who they should be. It is not your job to create your children in your own image. It is not fair to your children because you will stifle who they are and who they want to be. And frankly, who they want to be may be better than anything you could have ever planned for your children. I have a daughter. She's 9 years old now. When she was 7, she isolated herself, self-isolation. In a power and control dynamic household, you will notice that there are children that hide. When I was a kid, there was hiding. When I started seeing those traits in my 7-year-old daughter, there was no violence in the home, no physical violence in the home. There was tone. There was scary sounding arguments that was believed was kept from the children. Sometimes it wasn't. But there was shit that this kid heard or shit that this kid saw that made her want to be out of sight, out of mind. Because if you're out of sight and out of mind, you ain't getting yelled at. So I noticed my daughter. She was hiding in a closet. She was hiding under a bed. And when you went to her and you asked her, hey, what's going on? How come you're under the bed? How come you're in the closet? Oh, I'm just in my happy place. I'm just playing. And she was. And there would not necessarily be any arguing going on. There'd be nothing to run and hide from. But I needed to understand, is that what you want to do, honey? Or is that what you feel like you need to do? So how did I overcome this? I said to her, honey, if this is who you want to be, if you want to be the kind of person that is alone, that is okay. If you have this crazy, awesome imagination, which she did, if you want to have this crazy, awesome imagination and you need to be alone to have this, then that's okay. So you get to choose what you want to do. But I'm going to challenge you and I'm going to ask you to come out. And when you're done doing what I'm asking you to do, you can go back in there, no problem. You get to choose what you do when you're not doing something that you have to do. So I started inviting her to cook with me. We were making fudge. She would make pancakes and waffles with my mother. She would flip eggs. She started coming out more. And when she was isolating, I would go in and I would ask her permission to join her, which she loved. And here's her daddy with his painted fingernails, and not painted now, with his painted fingernails and her little teddy bear and her little Barbie doll, and we're going to run errands. Then something happened when we were playing dolls that really stuck with me. My daughter said, we have any tea in the world. What tea would you like? Well, my favorite thing in the whole world was Reese's peanut butter cups. Well, we don't have that, honey, or daddy. Well, it's okay. It's okay. Whatever you have, I'm happy with. I'm just happy to be here having a tea party with you, honey. So let's just do that. No. Nope. I'm going to the store. So her and her little toy car get a couple of Barbie dolls in there. Get a couple of Barbie dolls in there, and they go and they drive to the store. They pick up this Reese's tea and they bring it back so Daddy can have some tea. Now, I understand that you want to be a good hostess. You want to be a good host. So you want to make sure that your guest has what they want. But that bothered me because I did not want her to be the kind of person that was just going to do whatever somebody wanted because they wanted it. I felt like that set a bad precedent. And yes, we're playing dolls. I fucking get it. But if she was doing, you see what I'm doing with my hands? I talked about that the last time. See, you see the butt there, and there's still shit I got to work on. But I did not want her to feel ever like she was a servant, that she had to do shit to make other people happy. Her happiness needed to be first, so that if she wanted to make other people happy, it was a choice. So with my daughter, I brought her out and we did a whole bunch of cooking together. We played games. We played Stratego. We played Rummy. We played Monopoly, Clue. We played Tag. We ran around. We went swinging. We went to the playground and got on the swings. We did really cool shit. Now today, she has the power to say, I do not want to be isolated. She didn't want to be that person. And you say, well, who does? Well, some people do. She did not want that. That was not the person that she wanted to be. And she was empowered to choose who she was, or who she wants to be. So I'll finish up with this culminating thought. You have the power as a parent to control who your children will be, and then one day they rebel against you. And you lose them, maybe for a period of time, maybe forever. Then again, you also have the power as the parent to let that kid be who that kid wants. You can enforce, a moral code. You can enforce, an accountability to integrity. But ultimately, they need to be who they want to be. And that is the gift that you have to give the gift that you have. And if you don't see your children as a gift, I recommend that you take a look and understand who your children are to you. That's it. Have a great day.